You've told people you're afraid of failing. You've said it in job interviews, framed as a strength. You've whispered it to friends over drinks. You've even journaled about it, the fear of falling short, of not being enough, of trying and coming up empty. That fear makes sense. It has a name. It has a shape. Everyone understands it. But there's something else. Something quieter. Something that sits at the back of your mind when an opportunity appears that's actually right for you. When the application is due and you don't send it. When the conversation would have changed everything and you walk away. When you get exactly what you wanted and then, slowly, systematically, find a way to make sure it doesn't last. You've told yourself you self-sabotage because you're afraid of failing. But what if that's not quite right? What if the thing you're actually running from isn't the floor, it's the ceiling? Here's what it looks like from the outside. You work towards something for months. Then, when it's finally within reach, you go quiet. You miss a deadline you could have hit. You pick a fight with someone who was helping you. You suddenly decide the whole thing wasn't what you wanted anyway. People watching you think, that's such a shame. You think, I don't know why I keep doing this. But your nervous system knows exactly why. When you were young, you learned something. Not in a classroom. Not from a book. You learned it from the air in a particular room, from a parent's face when you did something well, from the way praise was given and then taken away, from what happened the first time you let yourself get excited about something. Maybe success meant attention, and attention in your house wasn't safe. Maybe achievement meant becoming a target, for comparison, for expectation, for jealousy from people who were supposed to love you unconditionally. Maybe you watched someone close to you succeed and then lose everything, and your child brain filed that memory under, winning is how losing starts. You didn't choose this. Your nervous system chose it for you, long before you had the language to disagree. The fear of success is almost never about success itself. It's about what your brain learned success costs. Psychologists have a name for this. It's been documented, studied, and found in people across every background and income level. They call it self-handicapping, and at its core, it's one of the most ingenious, and quietly destructive, things the human mind does. Here's how it works. When you create obstacles before a high-stakes moment, you protect something more precious to you than the outcome, your self-image. If you fail after undermining yourself, you can say I wasn't really trying. If you succeed despite the obstacles, you feel briefly heroic. Either way, you never have to face what a genuine, wholehearted attempt would reveal about you. Because that's the real terror. Not that you'll try and fail. But that you'll try, really try, with everything you have, and still not be enough. Or worse, that you'll try, and succeed, and then be expected to keep succeeding at that level forever. That the success will define a new floor you have to maintain, and you already feel like you're barely standing. Researchers have also found a pattern they describe as upper limiting, the idea that each person carries an internal thermostat set to a particular level of happiness, success, and love. When your life exceeds that setting, your unconscious mind finds a way to cool things down. An argument appears out of nowhere. A project collapses. You get sick right before something important. It sounds almost too convenient. But you've probably felt it, that strange, specific discomfort that arrives not when things go wrong, but when they go very right. The mild panic beneath the good news. The voice that says, this can't last. Don't get used to this. That voice is your thermostat doing its job. This didn't start in adulthood. Think about the first time you succeeded at something, genuinely, visibly. What happened next? For some people, the response was overwhelming. Suddenly the bar moved. Suddenly everyone expected more. Suddenly you weren't allowed to struggle, because you'd already proved you were capable. The success became a cage. And somewhere in your developing brain, a quiet decision formed, if I show them what I can do, they'll never let me rest. For others, success brought something even harder, isolation. You did well in school and lost friends. You got the part, the grade, the promotion, and felt the air in the room change. Felt the subtle withdrawal. The jokes that weren't quite jokes. The silence where celebration should have been. And you learned, exceeding the people around you is a form of abandonment. The tallest flower gets cut first. And for some, success came wrapped in someone else's need. A parent who lived through you. A family that needed you to carry their hopes. And you felt, even at 7, even at 9, the unbearable weight of what it would mean to be the person who succeeded. Not for yourself. For all of them. Forever. That weight didn't disappear. You just learned to dodge it by staying just below the altitude where it kicks in. Here's what's subtle about this and almost impossible to see from inside it. You may have built an entire identity around almost. Almost finished the novel. Almost started the business. Almost had the relationship that worked. You have become, and this is the quiet devastation of it, a person with tremendous potential that somehow never fully lands. And there's a strange comfort in that. Because potential is safe. Potential means the story isn't over. You're still becoming. You haven't failed yet, not really, not with full effort on the table. The moment you succeed fully, the story changes. You are no longer becoming. You simply are. And what if what you are isn't enough? What if people see the finished version of you and find it ordinary? Staying in the state of almost protects you from that verdict. But it also costs you something. Year by year. Quietly. The way a slow leak doesn't feel like a flood until you notice the floor is wet and you can't remember the last time it was dry. People in your life have a version of this story. They call you inconsistent. They say you're your own worst enemy. They watch you walk away from things that were clearly right for you and shake their heads. So much wasted potential. They mean it kindly. But they've missed the point entirely. You're not self-sabotaging because you're weak. You're self-sabotaging because some part of you is still trying to protect you. Still running the same code that kept you safe in rooms that weren't. Still managing the thermostat according to rules that made sense once, in a different house, with different stakes. The behavior isn't irrational. It's just outdated. Your nervous system hasn't been updated with the information that you're no longer 7. That the adults whose reaction you were managing aren't in the room anymore. That the people around you now, the real ones, the ones who matter, can handle you succeeding. Might actually need you to. You've been protecting yourself from a threat that mostly exists in the past. If you sit with this long enough, something surfaces. It's not really am I afraid of success. It's something older and more honest than that. Do I believe I deserve it? Deserve is a word that gets a lot of eye rolls. It sounds soft. But it points to something very real, an internal account ledger that keeps track of what you're entitled to have. And for a lot of people, that ledger was written in childhood by people who weren't particularly careful with what they wrote. If you were told, not always in words, sometimes just in size, in comparisons, in the quality of attention you received, that you were too much, or not quite enough, or that your happiness made others uncomfortable, then your ledger says, success is for other people. You can admire it, work toward it, almost reach it. But when it becomes real, something in you says, wait. Check the ledger. Is this really yours? And the ledger says no. Not because it's true. But because it's old. And it's the only accounting system you have. Here's the thing nobody says about the fear of success. Overcoming it isn't about being braver. It isn't about pushing through. It isn't about finding the right system or the right morning routine or the right mentor who believes in you enough. It requires something quieter and harder than any of that. It requires letting the thing you want be real. Not keeping one foot out the door. Not staying in the warm fog of almost. Actually letting success land, feeling the specific discomfort of having what you wanted, sitting with it, not finding a reason to give it back. Your brain will resist this. It will generate excellent reasons to minimize, to deflect, to stay small for just a little while longer. And those reasons will feel true. They always do. But you have been performing safety for so long that you've confused it with living. The story you keep telling yourself, that you're protecting yourself from failure, has been protecting you from something else entirely. From the full-length, unguarded version of your own life. And that version has been waiting. You're not afraid of failing. You've been afraid of something else this whole time, something your nervous system learned long before you had the language to name it.